The galaxy once owed everything to humanity, but few remembered it anymore long ago. When the War of the Void began, the Galactic Council was losing. Planet after planet fell to a darkness no weapon could stop. The Void was not a fleet, not an empire, but a living storm of machines that devoured light, metal, and mind alike. Every race sent their armies, and every army was crushed until one small blue planet spoke a single promise. We will stand. The humans came with ships smaller than most. But they carried something no other species had. They carried fury, courage, and the strange human habit of never giving up even when the end was clear. They fought in silence, in radiation storms, in the cold emptiness between dying stars, and when the final battle came, it was humanity who closed the gate that led into the void. They lost billions, they burned their worlds to seal the rift. But they saved the galaxy after that. The Galactic Council made a silent choice. They erased Earth from the records, rewriting history to claim the victory as their own. They said humanity was extinct, that the last humans died in the fires of the Void Gate. No one questioned it, because no one wanted to remember who had really paid the price. 1,000 years later, the stars were calm again, and peace ruled the spiral arms. Young species grew, old empires traded, and the Council grew rich on lies until one quiet cycle, a forgotten signal echoed across the galactic network. It was faint at first, repeating in an ancient human language long lost to time. The translation frightened every linguist who heard it. It said, "Debt remembered, payment due." Admiral Serac of the Zilnari sat alone in his command chamber, his scaled hands shaking as the sound played again. He was old enough to know the legends, to know that this signal was not a myth. The humans had promised before their final stand that they would return if the galaxy ever forgot them. And now the promise was awakening. Across the Council's system, strange things began to happen. Long-dead satellites powered on, old defense grids hummed with forgotten energy. On abandoned worlds deep within sealed ruins, human emblems began to glow again. The emblem of a single word carved into steel and stone, unity. No one could explain it, and every attempt to trace the signal ended the same way. The scout ships vanished, their last transmissions filled with static and faint human voices whispering, "We remember." The Council tried to calm the people, but fear spread faster than light. Merchants whispered that human ghosts haunted the trade lanes. Miners said that black ships were seen beyond the rim, silent and massive. Every rumor pointed to the same direction, the forgotten edge of the Perseus Arm, where no one had traveled for centuries. Admiral Serac was ordered to lead an investigation fleet. He gathered 60 warships, the finest the Council had, and set course for the source of the signal. For weeks they traveled through silent space, following a trail of faint energy bursts. But as they entered the dead systems, the stars themselves seemed colder, planets hung lifeless, and strange metallic debris floated like shattered armor. Then, the flagship's sensors picked up something ahead, a massive structure hidden in a nebula. It was not a station, nor a planet, but something larger than either. As the fleet approached, lights flickered on across its surface, forming lines like veins of fire, and in the center, a symbol burned bright, the old insignia of Earth Fleet Command. Serac's officers stared in disbelief. "How is this possible?" one whispered. "Earth is gone." But before Serac could answer, the communication screens came alive. A face appeared, human, young, calm, wearing a black uniform with the Earth emblem on the chest. "Admiral Serac of the Council," the voice said, cold and controlled. "You stand before the memory of those you betrayed." Every ship's system froze. Engines offline, weapons locked, the human continued. "For 1,000 years we watched from the dark, rebuilding, waiting, remembering. You forgot your debt, Council Admiral, but we did not." Then the screen flickered, showing images of vast human fleets awakening in hidden docks, thousands of ships rising from the darkness, their hulls marked with names of ancient battles, names that history had erased. The transmission ended with one final line, spoken with quiet fury. The galaxy remembered humanity's debt, because we made it remember. In the silence that followed, Admiral Serac's fleet drifted helplessly. The great nebula around them pulsed with light as the massive human structure began to move. Engines ignited like small suns, and the void itself seemed to bow. Serac whispered to himself, "They were never gone." And in that moment, the galaxy realized its forgotten favor had just been called in. The council chamber on Archelis Prime was filled with panic. Every race, every delegate, shouted over the other, demanding answers. The humans were supposed to be gone, erased, a name spoken only in myths. Yet their signal was real, their fleets alive, and their message unmistakable. Admiral Sarak's transmission reached the council, and the silence that followed was colder than space. He reported the giant structure, the awakening ships, and the human voice that spoke of betrayal. The council tried to dismiss it as an illusion, a trick or a ghost program from the old wars. But deep down, they all knew the truth. Humanity had returned. In the shadows of forgotten star systems, massive shipyards stirred to life. Old hulls powered on, reactors humming with ancient energy long thought lost. Every ship bore scars from 1,000 battles, but each moved with purpose and fury. The humans had not only survived, they had evolved, rebuilding themselves into something greater. The lead ship, the HSS Vengeance, cut through the void like a predator, her hull black as obsidian, her insignia blazing with the symbol of Earth Fleet Command. At her helm stood Captain Ilara Holt, descendant of those who fought in the War of the Void. She had been raised on stories of betrayal, of sacrifice, and of the galaxy's lies. Now she commanded the largest fleet humanity had ever built, and her mission was clear: collect the debt that the stars had forgotten. Activate the beacon network, she ordered, her voice calm yet cold. All across the void, dormant satellites woke up, linking human fleets scattered across hidden systems. Each signal joined into one massive pulse of light, spreading through the galaxy like lightning. Every world that had once erased humanity now saw the return of the blue planet's vengeance. The first strike came without blood, but with terror. Human fleets appeared above trade worlds and research colonies, disabling power grids with precision. Their weapons did not kill, they sent a message. Every system shutdown revealed a single holographic phrase on planetary skies: debt remembered, payment due. Civilizations trembled as the broadcasts spread. Old historians searched forgotten archives, finding sealed data files labeled Earth. Inside were records of the humans' final battle, and the truth of the Council's betrayal. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy faced its own history, and it was ugly. On the bridge of the HSS Vengeance, Captain Holt stood before a massive hollow map of the galaxy. Her officers reported multiple successful strikes with no casualties. The plan was simple: reclaim recognition before justice. Let them remember who we are, she said softly, before we decide what they deserve. Some species tried to fight back, sending patrol fleets to intercept the human ships, but none returned. The human technology was beyond understanding. Their ships folded through space like phantoms, weapons fired but never hit, as if the humans had rewritten the rules of war itself. In one sector, an entire alien armada confronted a single human cruiser. They opened fire, lighting up space with plasma and beam energy. When the light faded, their ships drifted powerless, engines fried, crews stunned. The human ship transmitted one short message before vanishing: "Mercy is our first language, and don't make us speak the second." The council grew desperate. They called emergency meetings, demanded explanations, and accused each other of hiding information. Some even suggested surrender. But to whom? Humanity had no leader to contact, no embassy, no voice of diplomacy. They spoke only through their actions, through their precision, through the silence of their strength. Meanwhile, on Earth's new capital world, Erebus Prime, human cities stretched across black oceans and silver continents. Gigantic towers reached into the atmosphere, each glowing with light from ancient fusion cores. The planet itself was a fortress, a half-paradise, half-war machine. Billions of humans lived in unity, born under one banner, trained to remember what was lost. Every child learned the same words from birth: "We do not forget." In the Great Hall of Command, Captain Holt stood before the Council of Admirals. Holographic projections of dozens of human fleet commanders surrounded her. Admiral Kale, the eldest among them, spoke first, his voice deep and filled with calm fury. "The galaxy took our honor, our name, our dead, and buried them beneath lies," he said. "They will remember, Captain Kim, but we will not destroy them." Ilara nodded. "Not yet," she replied. "They must see what they erased." Their plan was more than revenge. It was justice built through remembrance. Humanity had returned not to conquer, but to hold a mirror to the stars. They wanted the galaxy to see the truth and feel the weight of its own betrayal. But deep inside, Alara knew it would not end peacefully. There would come a time when the galaxy resisted, when old fears became hatred again, and when that time came, humanity would be ready. Far from Erebus Prime, in the dark rim systems, a small scout drone captured a transmission. It was faint, distorted, but ancient. The same voice that once haunted the stars. The void signal had returned, echoing through space once more, and as the humans prepared to confront the galaxy, something else was stirring in the shadows. A storm that could consume everything again. Alara looked at the message in silence, her eyes reflecting the distant glow of stars. "The galaxy forgot who we are," she whispered, but the darkness never did. And with that, the human fleets began to move once more, their engines ignited, spreading waves of light across the void. The stars shivered at the sight. Humanity's lost armada had returned, and this time, they would not vanish. The Galactic Council was collapsing under its own fear. Rumors of humanity's return had spread across every world, every broadcast channel, every whisper in the dark. No one trusted anyone anymore. Old alliances began to crumble as leaders accused one another of knowing the truth all along. In the Grand Hall of Arcellus Prime, where the Council once ruled in pride, chaos now reigned. Delegates shouted, some calling for peace, others for total war, but none of them could escape the same truth. The humans were back, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them. The chair of the council, High Chancellor Varn, tried to regain control. He slammed his clawed hand on the table and shouted, "We will not be ruled by ghosts." But his voice shook, and everyone heard the fear behind his words. At that moment, a secure message arrived marked with the highest encryption code. It was from Admiral Serac, the only survivor of the fleet sent to investigate the human signal. His face appeared on the holographic screen, pale and exhausted, his eyes hollow. "This is not a rumor," he said slowly. "Humanity lives, and they remember everything." He showed images of massive fleets rising from nebulae, of ships carrying the Earth insignia. He described the human captain who spoke of betrayal and justice. And then he ended his report with a single sentence that silenced the chamber. "If we do not face our sins, they will make us." The hall was frozen in silence. No one dared to speak until the hologram faded away. Then panic broke loose again. Some demanded an immediate surrender, others wanted to prepare for total war. But deep down, they all knew that if the humans had survived for 1,000 years in the dark, there was no weapon left that could stop them. In a quiet corner of the council building, a young historian named Terrell uncovered something shocking. Buried deep in classified archives were files from the old War of the Void. He decrypted them, and the truth made his hands tremble. The record showed that the humans had not vanished. They were abandoned. The council had sealed off human space, cut their supply lines and left them to die to protect themselves. They lied, declaring humanity extinct, and erased every record to hide their betrayal. Terrell knew this revelation could destroy what remained of the council, but it was already too late. The truth was spreading. News networks across dozens of systems began leaking fragments of the hidden files. The people of the galaxy saw the images. Human soldiers fighting alone against the void, their worlds burning. They saw council fleets turning away, refusing to help. Billions began to question everything they were taught. Riots broke out on worlds that once worshipped the council as protectors. Crowds shouted the same words that had returned with the human signal. Debt remembered, payment due. High Chancellor Varn watched the chaos unfold from his private chamber. He whispered to his aides, "They are turning the galaxy against us without firing a shot." And he was right. Humanity was waging a war of truth, one revelation at a time, but something even darker was rising in the background. The old void signals were being detected again, faint but real, echoing through the same sectors where human fleets were moving. For the first time in centuries, the council realized that the ancient enemy might be returning. But the only ones who knew how to fight it, the humans, were now their greatest threat. Meanwhile, on Erebus Prime, Captain Ilara Holt stood before the great window of her command deck, her fleet spread across the stars, their formation perfect, their silence unbroken. A young officer approached her. "Captain, the Council has begun preparing for war." Ilara smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the light of the distant stars. "They still think this is a war of ships," she said quietly. "But it's not. It's a war of memory, and they've already lost it." She turned to her crew and gave a single command. "Activate Operation Remembrance." Across the galaxy, human drones began to project images into the skies of major council worlds. Images of human soldiers saving alien lives during the Old War. Images of mothers shielding children, of medics working beside alien allies. And at the end of every projection, one phrase burned across the heavens: "We fought for you, and you left us to die." Planets fell into silence. Billions watched. Some wept. Others felt shame for the first time. And everywhere, the legend of humanity grew stronger, not through violence but through truth. The Council tried to block the transmissions, but they couldn't stop them. The human signal was everywhere, unstoppable, eternal. Admiral Serac watched the chaos unfold and felt something strange inside him. Guilt. He remembered his ancestors' stories, tales of human bravery, of soldiers who never retreated, and now he realized his entire civilization had been built on a lie. He knew what would come next. "The humans won't destroy us," he whispered. "They'll make us destroy ourselves." In the Council's darkest hour, a final encrypted message arrived from the outer colonies. It contained sensor readings, massive energy spikes, too strong to be human or Council. Varn stared at the data in disbelief. "The void," he muttered, his face pale. "It's returning." But this time, humanity would not be the forgotten defenders. They would be the judges. And the galaxy, trembling in fear, finally understood what it meant when humanity said, "The debt will be collected." The galaxy had never been this quiet before. The riots had ended, not because peace had returned, but because everyone was waiting. Every world, every colony, every ship was holding its breath. The Council had gone silent and humanity had stopped attacking. But the silence was worse than war. In the skies above Arkelos Prime, thousands of glowing drones appeared. Each one projected the same message in every known language. "The time of judgment has come." It was signed with a single emblem, the blue circle of Earth Fleet Command. Every leader who read it felt the same chill crawl through their bones. Humanity was not asking for forgiveness. They were demanding justice. On Erebus Prime, Captain Ilara Holt stood in the great command hall. Before her were dozens of admirals, veterans, and scholars. The highest council of the reborn Earth, Admiral Kale, stood beside her, his voice calm but heavy. "They will not listen, Captain," he said. "They will hide behind their fear." Ilara nodded. "Then we show them truth they can't run from." She turned toward the giant hollow map that displayed the galaxy, and her command echoed through the hall. "Transmit the archives." Instantly, every system connected to the galactic network was flooded with human records. The truth of the War of the Void, unfiltered, undeniable, and painful. The galaxy saw everything. The humans fighting alone, sealing the rift, sacrificing their worlds, and the Council abandoning them to die. Billions watched the footage in silence, their faith in the Council shattering like glass. Some worlds began to rise in rebellion. Whole fleets of alien soldiers switched allegiance, declaring loyalty to Earth. They said humanity had done what no one else could, protect the galaxy even when abandoned. Now they stood with the truth. For the first time in history, the galaxy was no longer ruled by fear of the Council. It was guided by the memory of humanity's sacrifice. High Chancellor Varn gathered the remaining Council members in the war chamber. His voice trembled with anger and shame. "They are dividing us," he shouted. "They are destroying everything we built." But Admiral Serac, sitting in the shadows, whispered softly, "No, Chancellor. They are fixing what we broke." The chamber fell silent, Even the most loyal council generals could not deny that the humans were right. Their judgment was not destruction. It was truth. Back on Erebus Prime, Ilara Holt watched the reactions unfold. Planets that once erased Earth's name now flew human banners in respect. Messages of apology flooded every channel. But none of them could undo the past. "Do we accept their surrender?" an officer asked. Ilara shook her head. "Not yet," she replied. "The debt isn't paid by words." Then, a transmission arrived that changed everything. From deep space, from the edge of the void. It was a warning signal, ancient yet familiar, the same pattern the humans once used to call for help. The void was returning. Massive energy readings spread across multiple sectors. The darkness that once consumed entire civilizations was awake again. Captain Holt turned to her officers, her eyes burning with resolve. "Prepare all fleets," she said. "The real war is coming." The room filled with movement, commands, and urgency. Every human ship began charging its engines. But before they launched, Ilara sent one final message to the Council. Her voice echoed across the entire galactic network, calm and sharp like a blade. "This is Captain Ilara Holt of Earth Fleet Command. We remember every life we lost, every world we burned to save yours. The void has returned and we will fight it, not for you, but for the galaxy we once believed in. If you wish to redeem your debt, stand beside us now. If not, then you will face judgment with the stars." The message reached every corner of the galaxy. On some worlds, people fell to their knees in shame. On others, soldiers saluted the human flag in silence. Even the Council could not deny the truth anymore. Humanity was not their enemy. They were their last hope. As the fleets assembled, the stars flickered like nervous hearts. Human dreadnoughts formed vast formations across the galactic core. Alien ships joined them, Zelnari, Varnik, and Krylian vessels flying alongside humans for the first time in history. Together they faced the black horizon, where the void was rising again. Ilara watched from the bridge of the HSS Vengeance. Her crew stood ready, their faces calm, their hearts steady. She whispered to herself, "Once we fought alone, now the galaxy fights with us." The ship AI responded softly. "Admiral Kale would be proud." Ilara smiled faintly. "He will be, when the debt is paid in full." And with that, the great human armada moved forward, engines flaring, weapons charged, every ship glowing like a fragment of a star. Behind them, the galaxy watched in awe and fear. Ahead of them, the void waited. The final judgment of Earth had begun. The void between galaxies had never felt so alive. Where once there was silence, now billions of ships stood ready. Human dreadnoughts, alien cruisers, and carriers from a dozen species formed one massive wall of light. The galaxy had united under one command, Earth Fleet. At the heart of the formation was the HSS Vengeance. Her engines glowing brighter than suns, Captain Ilara Holt stood on the bridge, watching the blackness ahead twist and pulse. It was there, beyond the edge of known space, that the void was awakening. Sensors screamed warnings, showing massive distortions and gravitational tears. It looked like space itself was bleeding. Every ship went silent as a deep rumble echoed across the void. It was not sound, but vibration, the voice of the ancient enemy returning. Massive shapes emerged from the darkness, their surfaces shifting like liquid metal. The void armada had returned, stronger than before, endless and hungry. They were not ships, they were living nightmares, feeding on energy and thought. Ilara gripped the edge of her command chair, her eyes locked on the incoming storm. "Prepare the memory drive," she said calmly. Her crew obeyed, their faces pale but determined. From the depths of the HSS Vengeance, ancient systems came alive. Blue light flooded through the ship's core as thousands of old human consciousnesses awakened. The souls of fallen soldiers, preserved from the War of the Void, were returning to the battlefield. Admiral Kale's voice echoed through the intercom, though he had died centuries ago. "For humanity, for the galaxy, for those who will remember," the fleet answered as one. Thousands of captains spoke the same words. "We remember." The first wave of the void crashed against the human formation. Explosions rippled across the stars, entire fleets shaking from the impact. But humanity held the line. Their ships moved like a living organism, every maneuver precise, every counterstrike brutal. The alien allies fought beside them, inspired by the humans' courage. For the first time in history, the galaxy fought as one. Alara stood tall as data flooded her screen. "Sector 9 collapsing," an officer shouted. "Void breach forming in flank." Ilara's voice was calm. "Redirect the Valkyrie fleet." Her commands were like lightning. Quick, sharp, unstoppable human dreadnoughts dove into the breach, detonating fusion charges that tore the void apart. Even the darkness seemed to scream. Hours turned into days, and the stars themselves seemed dimmer. But humanity refused to fall. For every ship lost, 2 more took its place. The memory drive projected holographic fleets made of pure energy, the spirits of the fallen fighting beside the living. Every blow from the void was met with light. Every shadow was burned away by the will of humankind. Finally, the central mass of the void appeared, a black sphere consuming everything around it. Alara looked at it in silence. "That's the heart," she whispered. "The same one our ancestors sealed 1,000 years ago," Admiral Kale's digital voice responded. "Then we end what they began." She raised her hand and gave the final command. "All ships converge fire on the core." The fleet unleashed its full might. Beams of light, plasma storms, railgun strikes, and fusion detonations merged into one colossal burst. For a moment, the entire void became brighter than a sunrise. And then silence. The black sphere began to fracture, light bleeding through its surface like cracks in glass. The void screamed, not in words, but in agony. Then it imploded, collapsing into nothing, leaving only a faint blue glow. The silence that followed was pure and endless. On every ship, crews stared at the fading light, tears mixing with exhaustion. The galaxy had survived again because of humanity. Ilara sat quietly on her command chair, watching the last ripples of energy fade away. Her officer turned and said softly, "Captain." "It's over." Alara smiled faintly. "No," she whispered. "It's remembered." She activated the galactic broadcast one final time. Her voice carried through every world, every colony, every station. "The debt is paid," she said, her tone calm but heavy with meaning. "We were forgotten, but now you know who we are. We are humanity. The ones who stood when no one else would. Never forget again." The message ended, but its echo lived on in every heart. In the following centuries, the story of Earth's return became legend. Children of 100 races learned the name human with pride and awe. The council was gone, replaced by a new alliance built on truth. And at the center of that alliance stood Erebus Prime, the new light of the galaxy. Every star in the sky seemed brighter now. But sometimes, when the night grew still, those who looked up claimed they could still see it, a shadow shaped like a human warship, watching silently from the edge of space, protecting, remembering, waiting. For in the heart of the galaxy, even the stars trembled when they whispered one name: humanity.